Imagine how much more profit and time you would have in your business if there were 3 or 4 people that thought like you, acted like you, and made decisions like you. This is exactly what we're going to work on here today, is designing an incentive program to encourage your leading hands and project managers to think like you, make decisions like you, and drive margins up just like you would, so that you can be 1 degree away from site and they can control efficiency out there in the field. What we need to do from here is I need to find somewhere comfortable to sit down. You need to download the workbook, the link's below. Let's jump to it in a sec. I reckon this spot will do us just nice. Now you've got your workbook, I want to talk you through a little bit of the methodology behind what we're doing here. So the team members that we have at the moment, they're contractually obligated to be there, which means that they know how much they're going to get paid, they know what their job description is, and they're pretty much just going to follow that. This is where we get that mentality of the team's only going to do 80% versus us being able to do the full 100%. We've probably thought about that and probably heard of that. What we want to do here is to get that extra 20% out. We want to take our team from being this contractually obligated person, this like robotic sense, into somebody who is incentivized and has some upside, a bit of a bonus for putting in the extra work. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen, have you ever watched the Winter Olympics and you've seen those guys doing that curling sport where they throw the thing down the alley and there's the 2 guys in front that are sweeping and sweeping to make sure everything goes together? You're the guy that throws the, and I'm just going to assume it's called a curl, you're the guy that throws the thing down, and your team need to be the guys that are brooming ahead to make sure we hit the common goal. And the common goal for us in business is profit. That is ultimately what we are here for, and if we don't have profit, we don't have a business. So think of ourselves and our leading hands and our project managers as a non-billable team, our office team or leadership team. These are the guys that are on the broom in front of us, making sure that we achieve our goal. And if we really delve into what happens if we don't get these guys in, I want to paint a little picture for you. The contractually obligated guys, they start off reasonably good, but over time, their performance tends to drop off. They're not getting anything extra out, and that means that they're not putting anything extra in. And once we do bring an incentive program in, we call it the incentive games, we do find that our team actually have a continuous uptick. Their performance over the life that they're in the business continues to get better and better because they get this constant feedback loop of performance, achieving targets, and then sharing in the upsides. You're probably thinking, how are we going to split this up? How are we actually going to measure this? How does this relate to your business? Let's take a look. There's really 3 levels, or 3 areas of measurement that we could use in order to extract out what these incentives could be. There's our revenue, there's our gross profit, and then there's our net profit. These are the 3 layers or tiers. And when we think about who can actually play the game and who can be incentivized on these, I want to let you know that if we're putting it down to revenue, only the sales team can be incentivized on revenue because they don't have any say in gross profit and they don't have any say in net profit. All of their effort and all of their outputs are directly aligned with revenue. When we think about gross profit, these are our guys on site. This is really our leading hands, because they can directly affect our materials and our labour costings on site, which are our cost of sales. But they don't have too much involvement in our operating expenses. They don't really get to choose how much we spend on marketing, they don't really get to choose how much we're spending on fuel, and they don't really have a say in anything else that sits in those OPEX. The third piece that we have is our net profit. And when we think about project managers, these guys do have a say in the entire flow. They have some input into the revenue, they have some input into the gross profit, and they have some input into our operating expenses, which therefore come out to net profit. So what we're going to focus on here today is incentivizing our leading hands based on gross profit. These are the guys that are directly on site, and now that you're moving 1 or 2 degrees away from site, there's a bit of separation there. And I want to make sure that we can maximize efficiency. Let's have a look how it goes together. But before we do, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about a couple of guys who run a roofing company. They're a great co-directorship, they're very smart guys. They turn over some pretty good numbers. They've probably got 20 or 30 odd roofers and contractors within their business. They were really struggling to step away from operations because maintaining efficiency on site meant the difference between making profit and not. What we did was run this exact playbook with their project managers so that their team could actually take ownership for what's happening on site. And the outcome was more profit than they've ever had before. Now for today, I want to bring it down to leading hands, not project managers, but the same rules apply. And you can overlay that right job title. Whether you call them leading hands or leads or supervisors or team leaders, I'll let you use the right job description or job title, but the same rules apply. And I want to show you how this formula comes together, because this is where we're going to actually crunch some numbers, and I need you to have a pen ready. When we think about the formula itself, what we're trying to unpack firstly is how much is every gross profit point worth to us. When we think about the formula, the first thing that we want to do is understand how much every gross profit point is worth to us. What this means is if we can unpack how much every gross profit point is worth, we know how much extra money we make for every percentage increase of gross profit there is. So let's run a little example just to make the math a little bit clearer. Let's assume over the past 3 months that your business did 600K of revenue. That's 200K per month over 3 months, or 600K for the quarter. If we divide your revenue by 100, we are left with 6,000. This means that every percentage point is worth $6,000. Now, if we start to go a layer deeper then, we think about, well, what would happen to my profitability if I was to increase that by 2 percentage points? Well, because all remains constant, we're actually taking $12,000, those extra 2%, and it goes straight to the bottom line. So this is where every percentage point counts. Let's have a look at what this structure really means to you. In your workbook, you can go through this in a moment. I just want to explain it to you first. We're looking at our normal assumption or our benchmark. Let's say it's 40%. You can open up your Xero profile, you can go to last quarter, and you can turn on percentage of trading income and easily see that gross profit margin. I do want to frame for you as well, you do need to make sure that you've got your materials, your subcontractors, your billable wages and your billable super in there to make sure that we are counting for the right components in our cost of sales. If you don't have wages there and they're all the way down the bottom, then this is going to be irrelevant. So you're going to need to tidy those up. And we do have a training that is on tidying up your profit and loss, and you can search that through when you get around to it. But let's assume that you are accounting for gross profit correctly. What we want to look at is the effect of 3 different ranges. And if we were to say these ranges are good, great, and exceptional, and the difference here is our good is our normal benchmark. This is what we're forecasting and projecting for. This is what we expect to happen. Let's say that that's 40%. If we think about what great looks like, well, let's say, what if we can get it to 45? That would be great. And exceptional, let's say that's 50. Exceptional would be 10 percentage point increase from 40 to 50. Let's have a look at what those percentage points actually mean as far as a monetary value. If we achieve that 40, that's our good, there's no dollar figure gain to the company. There's no increase. That's our benchmark, that's our standard, that's what we're currently achieving. If we think about great, what does an extra 5% mean? Well, that means an extra $30,000 of profit for the quarter. That is net profit. What about exceptional? If we increase gross profit by 10 percentage points, we're adding an extra $60,000 of net profit for the quarter. If we can pull this off, exceptional is exceptional. This is a fantastic spot to be in. But how do we give the team some of this? How do we incentivize them to want to be a part of it? Well, we have to think about, what is this win-win ratio? How much are we willing to give to the team? And for this example here, we're going to look at great, and we're going to say we might do a 70-30 split. And what this means on paper is that the company would make an additional $21,000, providing we hit 45% gross profit, and there is a team bonus pool of $9,000. Now when I say bonus pool, let's say you've got 2 leading hands in your team and we design this to be a team bonus pool, that means that that $9,000 would be divided by the 2 guys. And we want to make sure that we keep this bonus pool mentality or bonus pool rule, because as the company continues to scale, you might bring in a 3rd leading hand and maybe even a 4th down the line. But when we bring that 3rd in, that bonus pool is then going to be split with 3 people. We want to make sure that this is a scalable model. Straight away, you might think, well, what about the leading hands that are already there? What if they get robbed? Are they going to be disappointed? We get the opportunity, as we said at the start, to get these guys to think like us. We get the opportunity to say to them, hey guys, do you want to haul ass and work a bit harder? Or should we bring in another leading hand so that we can produce more overall revenue, make your life a little bit easier and still get the comms? This is a scenario that the team have to start thinking like you and help you in making the right decisions. And let's just play out the extreme, the exceptional example as well. We're going to maybe give away a little bit extra if we achieve this, Hail Mary pass of exceptional. But let's say we do. We move gross profit from 40 to 50%. We make an additional $60,000 of net profit for the quarter. We're willing to give away 40% of that. The company would still make $36,000 profit on top of what we used to do. And the leading hands can also share in the wins of $24,000. If we paint this picture to our team of what they could achieve, I'm sure you'll see their eyes light up. And if you can achieve this as well, we're now making a win-win scenario. The house always eats first, but the team get to share in the upside too. The second page we have in the workbook is an opportunity for you to write out your own games formula. I don't want you to copy exactly what I've done. I want you to use your own business scenario. Particularly when we talk about the win-win ratio, you can decide how much you want to share. But I do want to add one piece to it, is that when we think about how much we're going to share in the wins, we have to make sure that it is between a range. And the start of the range is it enough for my team members to care? And the top of the range is, am I paying out too much to get the desired result? We've got to find somewhere safe in between that. If we were to position it and say the team's going to get $250 for the quarter, they're not going to give a shit about it. If we were to say the team's going to get $250,000 per quarter, we're going to give a shit about that. We want to find that happy medium somewhere in between where it's enough for them to actually care, be acutely aware, and be thinking about how to improve it so that they can make a bit extra on the side, and also how much is still left in it for the business. I don't think we should be splitting this up 50-50. I think the house should always be winning with a bit more upside. All right, we've gone pretty deep straight into doing some calculations, and you're probably starting to fill that out in your workbook as well and understand how much every gross profit point is worth. Now it's time to set some rules, because if we're going to be paying out reasonable amounts of money, we want to make sure that there are some very strict rules in place so that everybody knows where they stand, and also everybody knows how to play the incentive game. All right, we've crunched some numbers. Now I want to stretch my legs, because neither of us like the numbers, but it's an important part. The next piece, we actually need to set out the rules of the game. This is the format in which the incentive game is put together. And there's 3 key components to this. There's the criteria. This is really like the contract statement to say, what are the exact rules? When is it in play? When is it not in play? The next component is the amount. This is whether it is in play, whether it is valid, and then how much are they going to get for that period. And the final piece, speaking of, is the period. This is how it's going to be calculated and when it's going to be given. If we put this example together and we say, if the team achieve our benchmark, that's that 40% gross profit example we had, there would be no amounts, because that is good behavior. That's what they're contractually obligated to do. And there would also be no measurement period or payout period, because there is nothing to pay out. For the next component, this is our good range. These are when we have achieved that 45% gross profit. We need to note down from the team, what is that dollar figure that is the bonus pool? And when we think about the period, how often is this going to be paid and how often is this going to be calculated? I prefer to do incentive games on a quarterly basis. It allows for the highs and lows of a month on month. It gives us a good average over the past 3 months, but it's also not as far out as 6 months, because if we're going to be doing this twice a year, the team aren't going to remember it for the first 5 months. They're only going to care in the last month. So when we think about the period, it's going to be measured and calculated on a QTR or quarterly basis. And we will announce it and present it in the manager's meeting. If you don't currently run a manager's meeting, watch this video and learn how to do it. The third piece, this is that exceptional range. We're going to put in there what that dollar bonus pool is. And also, same again, it's going to be measured on a quarterly basis, presented and announced on a quarterly basis. Apologies for the hieroglyphics. And it's going to be announced, at the manager's meeting. That's how we set the rules. We set the criteria of when is it valid and when is it void. We set the amount, what are they actually going to get? And then we define the period of measurement. When are we actually going to calculate it and pay out that reward? A little piece of additional information for you here as well. I would write in there, when you get to putting this into a bit of a contract, I would write in there that we calculate it on a quarterly basis, but we pay it out the month after. Let's give ourselves a bit of grace to collect the cash from the invoices that we've sent so that we're not starving our business. Okay, we've spoken about some pretty big numbers. We've also put together a plan of how we're going to reward our team and pay out some of these big numbers. But you're probably feeling like this is a bit of a risk. Sam, what happens if it doesn't work? Sam, what happens if I don't pick the right range? Sam, what happens if we smash our gross profit and I end up giving out too much money? Well, that is exactly why we structure one thing to do before you roll out the incentive games. It is called the mini game, and it gives you 3 months to test the waters. The mini game is a very, very simple layout. What you do is inform your team of what we are planning to do. You can bring those leading hands together and you can say, guys, we do want to do this incentive program. I've got a pretty good indication of how it's going to look. But over the next 3 months, I need to test my theory because this is the first time I've ever done this. The team are going to go, okay, well, what's in it for me? And you can say to them, there's 3 components to this. I need to select who is involved in the incentive program. I need to select what we're going to measure this on, and I need to select how we're going to pay this out. You can see a bit of a theme there. This mini game can be directly related to gross profit, or it can be directly related to individual jobs as well. But I want you to think about, who do we want to incentivize? Let's say it's the leading hands. They're the guys in the meeting anyway. What is the outcome the incentive is designed to achieve? Well, we know that we are targeting an increase in gross profit. And how? How will the mini game be measured and rewarded? We're going to measure this on a monthly basis, and it might be rewarded in something as simple as a $500 per person cash. When I say cash, it's going to be done on their pay slip as a commission. We're not going to hand them out cash because that, my friends, would be illegal. Now, for the mini game, we've just decided we're going to do leading hands, we're going to measure gross profit, and we're going to pay out maybe $500 per person per month. We're going to test this for the first 3 months so that you can get in your mind very comfortable that the gross profit targets we have set are achievable, are reasonable, are not overextending ourselves, and are a bit of fun to work towards. You can also let your team know that you reserve the right to change those gross profit ranges. The game that we're playing here is to get a really sound understanding of how we can increase GP to maximize profitability, to share in some of the wins with the team. This is exactly how we do it. And if this does feel a little bit daunting to roll out on your own, you're not alone. A lot of people have come to us to say, how do we structure these incentive programs? And this is exactly how we do it. But if you want to work with us to do it together, there's a link below that you can book a call and we can roll out this playbook along with many others to make sure you make more money, have more time, and can have more fun within your business. Goodbye for now.